The Garmin Instinct crossover. Let's take a look at it.
Hey guys, what is going on and welcome back to Mark's Tech. So I've been waiting for this watch the day that Garmin announced it, which is almost a month ago, and it finally arrived yesterday and I'm actually wearing it right now. So I want to give my first impressions of the watch and then also compare it to the watch that it's replacing, which is my older Garmin Instinct 2 Solar Edition, which actually isn't that old. It came out earlier this year, but almost basically a year old. So first, let's go ahead and talk about the price. So the price of the crossover starts at $500 for the non-solar model, and then the solar model, which I have here, is $550. Then you also get a tactical edition for $600. Now the Instinct 2 starts at $350 for the non-solar, and the one I have here is the solar model, which goes for $450. And then you also get the tactical edition for $500. So comparing, $500 for the tactical edition, that's what the Garmin crossover starts at for the base model non-solar. So there is a pretty big price gap between these two. Now first, let's go ahead and talk about the obvious. This watch has physical hands. They're not digital hands, they are a true analog physical hands. Now when I first saw this, I'm like, well look, that's kind of stupid because anytime you're going to be interacting with the watch, you're not really going to be able to see what's on the screen because the hands are going to be blocking it. And then coincidentally, if you look at Garmin's press photos, the time is always 9:15, but what I'm trying to say is that the hands were always horizontal. So I'm like, well, that's pretty convenient, but that's the trick. That's actually a feature. So anytime you interact with the watch, the hands always go to, okay, I guess it's the 9:15. So the hands always go to 9:15. So you can actually always see what's on the screen without the hands being blocked. Now, if you want to go back, you just click back and then the hands just go back to the proper time. That is super cool. I mean, I don't know if any other company is doing this, but that's really awesome. The hands are also interactive, so when you're running and you're checking which zone your heart rate is at, the hands act like a pointer letting you know. I mean, that's pretty cool, you gotta admit. I don't know about you, but I love the convenience factor of a smartwatch, but I also prefer the simplistic style of an actual analog watch, and with the crossover, you kind of get the best of both worlds. If you guys have seen my videos, I've owned the Apple Watch, I've owned the Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, I still own the Pixel Watch, I've owned a ton of smartwatches, and while they are the better social watch, you can't help but to look like a Spy Kids movie anytime that you're wearing it out in public or you're wearing it to a nice fancy dinner. You look kind of, not bad because we're kind of all used to it by now, but it just looks a little silly. It looks like something doesn't belong, right? But with this watch, whenever you put it on your wrist, it just looks like a normal watch. But you still get the smartwatch functionalities such as call notifications, text notifications, app notifications, really just any notification that goes to your phone goes to this watch. Other differences is that the crossover is ever so slightly larger than the Instinct 2. And it's ever so slightly thicker as well, which is kind of hard to show in this video, but it is ever so slightly thicker, which does make it a little bit more of a masculine watch, instead of a unisex watch like this watch was. But I mean, hey, if you buy it and you can rock it, I say go for it. I mean, it's a really good watch. Another difference is that on the Instinct 2, the glass of the watch is more sunken in to the actual frame of the watch itself, which does make it a little bit more rugged because you'll have a pretty tough time to actually scratch the display or crack the display because it's sunken in pretty darn deep. But if we take a look at the crossover, you can see that the glass is basically right up top. I mean, you still get some protection, like you see that little bezel right there that's poking out. Then also on this side, you get that bezel. So it is more outward, instead, if you compare it to this right here. So the actual glass is more towards your face. Obviously, you got to make room for the actual physical analog watch hand, so that's why it's there. But it is still ever so slightly protected, as you guys can see right there by those four little pegs. But I mean, we'll just have to see how this thing holds up over time. I've owned this for, I believe, since April, and there's not a single scratch anywhere on the watch. I mean, literally anywhere, not even on the actual frame of the watch. There's no scratches at all. So I'll be kind of surprised to see how well this survives after months of me wearing it. Other physical differences that I found is that the crossover has a metal plate. You can actually see that plate right there that goes around, kind of sandwiched between the glass and the plastic. It goes slightly around the screen over here, and then also that same metal plate is kind of sandwiched between these two plastic pieces. You can kind of see it shining right there. So it does look a little bit more premium, a little bit more rugged, whereas the Solar edition of the Instinct 2, you don't get that metal plate up top over here, and then there's also nothing sandwiched in between. It's just straight up rugged plastic. So that's kind of the the differences that I found. I think the crossover looks a little bit more premium, but what do you guys think? Let me know down below which watch do you guys prefer. Now, when it comes to the actual sensors, they are identical, except the charger port has moved horizontally instead of vertically, so that's one little change. But when it comes to the sensors, they're identical. When it comes to water resistance, identical. Shock resistance, identical. Thermal resistance, identical. Basically identical. What's different is actually on the inside. The crossover has a newer GPS chipset, which is actually the same one that's on the Phoenix line, the Phoenix 7, the more flagship line, as well as the Epix line. So those watches are $800 to over $1,000. So it's nice to know that a $500 to a $550 or even a $600 if you're getting a tactical version watch. It's nice to know that they're going to get the same exact GPS performance as the more premium brothers. So with the Instinct 2, you're getting GPS and GLONASS, and with the crossover, you're getting all systems, which means you could connect to 5 different satellite constellations for a much more accurate GPS signal. But that also means that this watch actually gets ever so slightly less battery life if you enable all systems while tracking a workout. For me, I just run on my local trail, so I don't really need all systems. I just use the normal GPS. But whenever I go to Colorado at the end of this month, I'll definitely be enabling all systems while in the mountains. Now, in the max battery GPS mode, since the chipset on the crossover is more power efficient, your battery life skyrockets. So for the Instinct 2 non-solar, you're getting 70 hours of non-stop tracking, whereas the crossover non-solar gets 111 hours of non-stop tracking. Now, if you get the solar variant, which both of these are, you'll go from 370 hours on the Instinct 2 to 553 hours. I mean, that's insane. That's a massive bump. Now, when it comes to the watch face on the crossover, since it has a physical hands or physical analog watch hands, the watch face is going to be slightly different. So you can choose between this one, which is actually the one I have installed. Then you got this one, which is also a pretty neat one right here. So you can kind of obviously customize all the data fields that are on it. Then you get this one right here, which is actually, man, this is actually a pretty nice one as well. It looks a little bit more traditional. Then you also get a simplistic one like this, or one that looks like this, which actually shows the time. You can see that it is 10:10. It's kind of very faint, but in person you can see it much more clearly than on camera. Then you get this one, which has 28 in the background. I don't know what that's supposed to represent, but then you also got this one right here, and then back to here. Now, obviously, if you download the Garmin app, you can download more watch faces, more third-party watch faces to kind of customize what you like. But I think the selection on the Instinct 2 is a little bit better because it's all digital, right? Or you don't got anything physical, no analog watch hands. So if I go and select my watch faces, you can see that I have this one, which I have as my main one. You get this one. I mean, you just get a little bit more variety. You can get even the white background, so it's a little bit more easier to see indoors. So you get just slightly more with the Instinct 2 Solar, or just the Instinct 2 lineup in general. You get way more watch faces, and then this is the one that a third-party one that I have downloaded, which is super sick. But that's something to keep in mind. The crossover just gets a little bit less watch faces than the Instinct 2 lineup. Now, a full review of the watch is coming. Like, I've only been using this for a day, but so far I love it. Everything about the watch is great. The physical hands are just a joy to look at without having to light up the display to check the time. Also, the hands glow in the dark, so it charges via light. Like this light that you see in the background of the watch, which is located right there, even that light is actually charging these little things that go around, including the watch hands. And then you also, have it charged through sunlight, natural light. Basically, any source of light is going to charge the luminescence of the watch. And then when it gets dark enough, it'll start glowing. So, that's just super sick. I love it. Now, is it worth $550 or $500 if you go for the non-solar, or even $600 if you go for the tactical edition? That just all kind of depends, up to you. Now, obviously, this does have a ton of, let me go back. This watch has a ton of sport profiles. These are the ones that I just have installed, but obviously, if you go down and you click add, you can do, you got outdoor. I'm not going to go through all of this because the actual operating system is identical to the Instinct 2. And I did a full review on this, so if you guys want a little bit more in depth to see which profiles you got on the watches, go watch my Instinct 2 review. But this one is identical. You get all your outdoor activities such as hiking, climbing, bouldering, golfing, hunting, fishing, walking. Then you get your running, which is your trail running, virtual run, track run, indoor run, triathlon, swim run. I don't know what that means. Swim run. What's that? But you also get cycling, swimming, gym workouts, winter sports, water sport. Guys, you got it all. It'll be actually hard to do all of these sports. It's quite insane. So it depends how you use your watch. For me, even though I mainly cycle and run and go to the gym, I still bought the watch. I enjoy it because it looks like a normal basic watch. It's just a little bit more expensive than some of the cheaper normal watches. But you also get smart notifications, call notifications, text notifications. You also get Garmin Pay, so you can use NFC payments to make payments with terminals. You kind of have it all, except the display is not AMOLED like on the Apple Watch, so it doesn't look flashy. There's no bright lights. It's just nice. So like I said, a full review is coming. I'm still getting used to the watch. But if you guys have any questions in the meantime, if so, drop me a comment down below. I'll try to answer as many of you guys as I can. If you are new here, consider subscribing. And if you found this video to be entertaining or just good to watch, I don't know. Whatever it is, drop me a like. And that's it. This was Mark from Mark's Tech. Adios.